That's where you have your fundamental data, your market data, and all of these sort of things, your more traditional data sources, but also a lot of new data sources, right?
Peter, I think Kyle mentioned about different kind of when we were talking about ideation, looking at different kind of data. He talked about the econometric data and other things as well. The economic data and the news-based analytics and other things. So, what all kinds of data are available, right? So when we think about data, the first level thing is that, okay, market data, right? We dig a bit deeper, maybe we think about that, okay, economic data or something, right? But you are in the data provider space. Probably there is a lot more than what we see at the outset, probably. So I would love to know what are the different data types that the traders or the investors can use for their ideation.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, can you say, two big categories that can be split up into multiple other categories. You sort of have what we like to refer to as structured data. That's where you have your fundamental data, your market data, and all of these sort of things, your more traditional data sources, but also a lot of new data sources, right? Kyle was mentioning credit card data, for instance, that would also sort of fall into a more structured data set. And then you have unstructured data. That's where you start to move into text and imageries and voice and stuff like that, right? So that's the space that we have operated in. We have primarily focused on text, right, or transcripts, so voice to text. So that's sort of been where our edge has been. We have been in natural language processing for the last 20 plus years. So we were some of the people that were, I don't know, some people refer to us as pioneers, and I don't mind repeating that, right? But
that is indeed the case. We have been there more than 20 years now. So
yeah, so some people sort of refer to us as the pioneers in natural language processing for finance, right? And that's sort of the space that we have operated in. And I will say early days, the big data sets like news and so on were really the drivers, but you can imagine any textual the document being interesting. So that, earnings call transcripts, filings, you start to go into job postings. So what are companies hiring, for instance? So they might start talking about how they are investing heavily in AI, but they're not hiring any AI engineers or machine learning engineers or anything like that, right? So are they doing sort of like we have talked about greenwashing, but there's also a term today it's called AI washing, right? So you can start to look at various data sets here and try to consult to see if the companies are being consistent, right? But I will say, I mean, we are at a stage where the rate of growth of new types of data has really come down. And that's also why it's shifted more towards taking more advantage or better advantage of the data that is there in terms of new categories. And that's where something like machine learning and so on comes in. That, of course, in itself, an AI in itself can produce new data because you start to take existing data and looking at it in new ways. And that in itself creates new opportunities, right? And also just the way that you access information. We talked about, or Yash has mentioned democratization of data, right? That has sort of taken a new sort of journey again with large language models, right? Because now you're suddenly starting to allow users to interact with data in new ways in natural language. So you're opening up for a new type of user that doesn't necessarily know how to program as deeply to start to access this information and start asking questions of it. And those who do know how to program, they suddenly have a powerful toolkit in their hands in saying, how can I do off the fly labeling of content that comes textual, that is tailored towards how I look at the world. And that is sort of how I look at the world can be included in how you prompt the language models, right? How do you want them to interpret the content in front of you? But everything has become a little easier, and that is generating new insights from existing content that you can take advantage of.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. Great. Okay, great. So thanks for sharing.
Nitesh, if I could just add, so we've also seen a lot of change in the demand from retail about data. So earlier it was just about, can I get access to historical data? Because the first starting point is backtesting.
Mhm.
And then they would say, okay, fine, can I get access to real-time data? But then the requirements have kept evolving, where they start looking at, can I get fundamental data so that I can model my, longer term strategies
Factor
against
investing and all, yeah.
various, factor investing models.
Mhm.
Then you also have a lot of requirements on option Greeks, analytics on options, where people say, you anyway calculate the Greeks, you give us Greeks data so that we can then use that to model our strategies. So the requirements have just been going up as, everybody's trying to find an edge, right? So they're trying to find, now that everybody is aware that data can be crunched, they want as many data points as possible. So yeah, that's something that we've seen change over the last few years.
Pretty amazing. That's fascinating. I think individual traders going in and asking for all kind of alternative data and data that they can quantitatively analyze. I think that's a pretty great leap forward, I guess, in terms of the evolution that's happening. Thank you. And are they asking for the sentiment data and other things? Do you see that happening as well, or have we reached there now already in the individual trader space?
On non-quantitative traders, yes, they do ask, but
Okay.
we haven't got quant traders who are asking for sentiment data as of now. I'm sure
Wow. That's
after this conversation, maybe a few of your viewers will ask us for it. But
well, I think it's given what all that is happening in the NLP and Gen AI space, I think it's probably only natural that all these things which can come in. Cool. Thanks, Yashish.